make it open.
About preserving Lahaina moving forward.
I'm already thinking about ways for the state to acquire that land so that we can put it into workforce housing, to put it back into families, or to make it open spaces in perpetuity as a memorial to people who were lost. We want this to be something that we remember after the pain passes.
About preserving Lahaina moving forward.
I'm already thinking about ways for the state to acquire that land so that
been in the industry of people losing their homes due to fire, flood, monster, emergency services. But I need you guys to hear me out. You don't see what's going on. I feel something is bigger. I've been on Maui the last 9 years, and I know the geographical location and how everything works. There was no fucking way that a hurricane missed Big Island, went to Maui, and didn't flood them, didn't give them, crazy other things, but it caused fires. It caused fires in not only on Maui, but it caused fires in the most precious parts of real estate in Maui. Lahaina Front Street is worth billions. The Hawaiians that have been holding out and the Kanaka have been holding out for years, not wanting to sell their property in Lahaina due to these big $1 million companies. It is not a coincidence, I don't believe, how in the most precious parts of Maui, Kula, Lahaina, and Kihei, that the locals that are standing strong and do not want to give up Oprah Winfrey's fucking view up in Kula that the Hawaiians are holding out on, that the fire was going to, the Hawaiians and the Kanaka that was holding right there on Front Street. I've been in the industry of people losing their homes due to fire, flood, monster.
The Democrats and Joe Biden, they don't give a damn about the people in Maui. What is it? Over 60 people have lost their lives, expected to decline. People had to run to the ocean to escape the flames. And lots of people are asking questions. We're not going to get into it here because I don't have hard data, but I can tell you this. Washington's response has been underwhelming and noticeably underwhelming. Biden and Harris have announced, we don't feel the need, we don't want to get in the way of the rescue workers. What a chicken bleeper excuse that is. You're not going to get in the way of the workers? What? So is your podium that frickin' big it takes up the whole coastline in Maui? That's their excuse for not visiting and offering comfort and support. If you need more proof than that they hate America, I don't know what I can offer you. There are none so blind that will not see. Hell, Ray Charles can see what's going on here, but it gets worse. It gets worse. The Democrats, that would include Biden and word salad Harris, they have combined to tie aid for Maui, federal disaster aid for Maui, to increased aid for Ukraine. Now, I reported on this 3 days ago, $10 billion headed to Ukraine. Guess what they've done? This is what I mean when I say they're holding the people of Maui hostage. Now that price tag to free up the money for Maui relief has gone up to $28 billion. They've tripled what they want to send to Ukraine while they hold the people of Maui hostage.
All praises and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Ha Rakah Kadash. Double honors to our apostle elders, which rule great millstone well, and shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. May you endure into the end. Shalom wa abba babal. All right, so everybody knows what's going on in Maui and other islands of Hawaii, so much as it being on fire or was on fire, right? And people died and lost their homes. But there's reports of people catching lasers on cameras right before the fire started, which the government is saying that 29 power lines were knocked down by hurricane winds. All right, but that don't explain how metal melts, all right, in this fire, which they're calling a forest fire, when forest fires only burn at 1200 degrees to 1500 degrees, and still, like the steel rims on a car, all right, they don't mount until 2500 to 3000 degrees. All right, so the destruction is not adding up to a forest fire. All right, but this event, how they're taking away the help for the people of Hawaii, you know, this shows you the devil, the so-called white man, and he's showing you his horns. And we've been telling you that this is what's going to happen in America across the whole United States. They're going to pull away your resources at the same time as they destroy your home. All right? It says in Revelation 6 and verse, I'll start at 4. And there went out another horse that was red. The horse represents power. And that was red. The word red goes to Edom, Adawam, which is the so-called white race biblical name. And power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. And how would he cause to take peace from earth? He causes chaos, like war, like destruction. And that they should kill one and another, which World War I, World War II, World War III will and are white wars, so-called Caucasian wars. Which once again, they're not white, they are red. They are the red devil the Bible speaks of. Esau is their forefather. Edom is their nation, their biblical name. It says that they should kill one and another. And there was given unto him a great sword, the nuclear missile. That's why it's not a coincidence that the nuclear weapon came through T-Man, the German Edomite. It says, and when he had opened the third seal, Yahushua releasing these spirits, including the so-called white race, allowing him to come down with great wrath, knowing that he has but a short time, which are spirits of vengeance. It says, and when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse. Black means empty and void. And he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand, which this is following the so-called white man when he comes into power, eventually learning that his time is short because he has the prophets to confront. And the prophets, which are of the nation of Israel, the Israelites are the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American Indians of North, South, Central of Americas, including the Caribbeans. Alright? Now as you see, it says, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand, which Esau's balances are an abomination. They're a false balance. Just like now, instead of sending aid to the Hawaiian people, which Hawaii is supposed to be a state of the United States of America, they're sending money to Ukraine to fuel the war. Right? Instead of helping, which they say there's no racism no more. I heard Mike Adams on his Britain channel, he said racism doesn't exist. Then what do you call this, piece of shit? Alright? What do you call this? When a dark-skinned people, like the Hawaiian people, which majority of them are Japheth, but you have Israelites mixed in with them, alright, dark-skinned people, alright, but then they can't get no help even though they are with the Union of the United States of America. Just like Puerto Rico can't get no help because they're a dark-skinned people. Alright? So Esau's balances are unfair. They're an abomination against you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. It says, and I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. Which, let's go into the translation comparison, and we'll go to the NLT, New Living Translation. And I heard a voice from among the 4 living beings say, which these are angels, a loaf of wheat bread or 3 loaves of barley will cost a day's pay, and don't waste the olive oil and wine. The olive oil and the wine represent the elect that have this truth. All right, we're going to be protected. While everybody else is starving, we're going to eat. All right, but the devil, the so-called white man, in his fit of rage, because he knows that he had but a short time, is going to cause this. He's going to bring chaos. He's going to cause war in the streets of America, and he's going to take away the resources, which is going to lead to hyperinflation, which will lead to 2 Ezra chapter 15, and I'll get the scripture right here. 2 Ezra 15. It says at 14, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword is the so-called white man. He's a weapon of mass destruction. And their destruction, the destruction of that so-called white race, draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, which I already heard of sedition in Hawaii. Because I played that first video with the governor of Hawaii, because Hawaii is a state of the United States. And he's talking about taking that land and making it state-owned land. That it's going to be like a state park. Which I heard other places that they want to build, $1 billion hotels, casinos, make it like a Vegas there. All right? So there's already sedition against the government. It says, and invading one another, they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. And I heard even those Hawaiians, they said, hey, when all this shit gets done, calms down, we need to come together and pretty much form an army to protect them against from who? Against the government that's there causing them terror. The so-called white race, which they're supposed to be part of the United States of America. Supposedly the freest country in the world, supposedly the most bravest country in the world, but that's all lies. Just like their Christianity is a bunch of lies. Just like their patriotism is a bunch of fucking lies. Alright? And as the lies are being revealed, people's lives are being lost. People are getting hurt. So what's next? They're going to react by violence. They're going to act out violently against the government, which the government already knows this. That's why you see all this military movement. All right? They already know the people are going to get violent, and they want you to get violent, because then they'll be able to kill you in the street and label you a terrorist. It says in 2 Ezra 15 verse 18, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled. Whose pride? It's that so-called white race that is in control of the resources, in control of making the laws, in control of the taxes, in control of putting you in jail or allowing you to live free amongst society. All right, that so-called white race is the red devil the Bible speaks of. And every day you're going to learn it more and more and It says, the houses shall be destroyed. What happened in Hawaii? The cities are troubled because of the pride of the so-called white man. They can't even get no fucking aid. They said they're in martial law, right? It says the houses shall be destroyed. Their houses were destroyed. It says, and men shall be afraid. And they are afraid. There's a guy, Christopher Green, an Edomite, that has a show called AMTV, which he tries to promote cryptocurrencies. But once in a while, he'll put out a good information on, what's going on. He lives on that island. And he openly tells you that they have a plan, the rich, with BlackRock and their other secret organizations, to take and kill and steal and starve for their benefit the rest of the world. All right? This is what happened to Hawaii is going to happen to all of America eventually, and even worse, because eventually America is going to get nuked by 200 million nuclear missiles, all right, funded by the international bankers of the so-called white race. It says, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, right, which they said that's what they were afraid of, because people had nothing, literally nothing. Everything they owned, even the car, was burnt, right? So that's what they were saying they're afraid of happening in Hawaii, is where people start acting out violently because of the lack of clean water, the lack of food, the lack of a vision of having any future with your family or with your children. All right? So it's going to become very violent. And America is eventually going to become a desolation. All right? It says, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread. I'm going to start from the top. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation, which you see in Hawaii. Right? What are you going to do when there's no food in America altogether? And there's danger on every side of you. See? That's why the elect men are going to become like precious gold. Alright? Because we're going to be the only safety that is here on this earth. Everybody else is going to be in fucking chaos. It says, says in verse 11, and I will punish the world for their evil, which that's what's happening, right? They're being punished for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity, which the wicked is a sword in the Lord's hand. He uses the so-called white man as a sword to punish the people on the earth, starting with the Israelites, because we sin. And I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, which that sword has accomplished its fucking task. And really, its final task is going to be in this time when they make that implantable microchip mandatory. And they come down with great wrath, knowing that they have but a short time. Alright? But pretty much their job of corrupting the whole world is pretty much fulfilled. That's why the prophets are here. And now they're going to make a decree, a draconian decree with their executive orders, that everyone has to have an implantable microchip to be able to buy or sell. Why? Because they're going to pull away the resources, just like they did in Hawaii. At the same time as your cities are being destroyed. It says, and I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and I will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible, because he's going to destroy them in a nuclear destruction. It says, I will make a man, that man being the Israelite man, the man of the Lord, more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. So just like there's a great desire for the gold of America, that desire is going to be for the Israelites. Those men that are of the elect, because we're going to have stability in a time of chaos. Alright, and that stability is by the power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, through knowledge and wisdom that we have understanding. It says in Isaiah 4:1, and in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. Right? The shame of not being married, that they don't have a man. What about all these women that are in Hawaii and they don't have a man to fight other men for food? Huh? What about they don't have a man to make quick life-saving decisions? They don't have a man to protect them and their children, because in this wicked-ass society, they have taught the woman that they don't need a man. So when all hell breaks out, right, just like it did in Hawaii, and this is nothing new, all right, it happened all over the world under the watch of the so-called white race, the red devils, and it's going to get worse for Babylonians. For the American citizen, America is going to be like Hawaii all the way across, from the East Coast to the West Coast, from Canada to Mexico. And if you don't have a man that the Lord loves, you're up shit creek without a paddle. But these women that it's talking about of the nation of Israel will seek the men of the Lord and ask to be wives so that they could be saved. Alright? It tells you in the bottom here, verse 5. Well, I'll read 6, just get to the point. And there shall be a tabernacle. Yahweh's tabernacle is with men, the Israelite men, and they have the name Yahushai with them by the Holy Spirit. It says, for a shadow in the daytime from the heat. So protection from the heat, you need a man of the Lord. And for a place of refuge, you need a man of the Lord. And for a cover from storm and from rain, you need a man of the Lord. Alright, that's why women they're gonna get it worse. Even these women that have men, right, that are not men of the Lord, their men are gonna get killed in the wars, looking for food or fighting for food. They're going to get killed because the Lord don't love them. Alright? And then he's going to kill the women in horrible ways. Alright? This is judgment. It says in Revelation 6, verse 8, and I looked and behold a pale horse. Alright? So Esau, he's being released into the world to cause chaos by Yahushai, by the power of Yahweh. Alright, and what follows Esau is famine, death, and destruction. It says, and I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him, which in the scriptures it calls Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, death. Alright, it even tells you that death came through the envy of the devil. Wisdom of Solomon 2, verse 24, it says, nevertheless, through envy of the devil, that devil is that red man, the so-called white race, came death into the world. Because he's that same serpent that deceived Eve in the Garden of Eden. And they that do hold to his side do find it. So it's saying that Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, is the harbinger of death. So that death that rides this horse is representing Esau. Alright? Just like the rider of the red horse is representing Esau. Alright? These are the things that come with Esau. It's the sword, famine, death, and destruction. Let me grab one more out of here. 2nd Ezra 15. Says in 2nd Ezra 15 verse 5, Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, the so-called white race, famine, which that's what they cause, death, and destruction. And that's the time we're in famine, death, and destruction, because the so-called white race is being revealed as the son of perdition, which they're going to be destroyed right along with their society. It says in Revelation 6 verse 8, And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death. And hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword. Who was blessed with the sword? The so-called white race. And with hunger. Who's causing famine? Who's causing famine? The so-called white race. Look at Hawaii. Look at Puerto Rico. Alright? All these countries that are starving, even, what is it out there in Yemen? It's all done by the so-called white race. They are the devil the Bible speaks of. It says to kill with sword, which they were blessed with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth, which they even got GMO mosquitoes that they unleash on the population with diseases. You see? So this is showing you that the so-called white race are the devil the Bible speaks of. All praises and glory to Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai, Bashamha Rakakudash. And that's why the people are mourning, because the wicked, the so-called white race, the wicked are ruling the world, and the people are mourning. The righteous are the Israelites, the elect of the nation of Israel, which the Israelites are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, which have been scattered throughout the world in slavery. And the elect, their righteousness is not of their own. It's of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai. That's why we establish what Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai has taught us. But with that, double honors to our apostle elders, which rule Great Millstone Wow, and shalom to the hopeful elect. May you endure into the end. Shalom wa abababal.
So that they can evacuate. Within the first 24 to 48 hours, there was fires encroaching from all directions. So I made the executive decision, obviously in charge of my own family and friends, that we would stay put. It was the safest place to be, God willing, all glory to him, and it proved to be case in point. But we tried to rally and exit from multiple areas and were turned around by officials, police officers, I think probably had good intentions but didn't know. So the real issue, in my opinion, is a lack of communication having been on the ground. There were no warnings, no siren systems that went on before the flames began to engulf the town. And what's really concerning about it, and I'm not even getting into the conspiracy theories right now, and I'm not even going to talk about them, because I just think that at this sure that there's a lot of people discussing it. It's very convenient that the whole town of Lahaina was wiped out with a clean slate, and now it appears that there's just eminent domain for like a planned redevelopment. And that's what I'll say about it. I'm very concerned about that, and I'm concerned about the sanctity of life, the people, the Hawaiian culture, the Hawaiian lands, and it was Lahaina where all the focus was, but I've got friends all over the island. There's still fires raging. They've been contained 70, 80%, so the worst of it is hopefully over. Up country Kula, on fire. Kihei, on fire. Lahaina, essentially nuked. So I hear people talking about, was it direct energy weapons? Again, I don't really want to give even my opinion on this at this moment. It doesn't matter though, because what has happened has already happened. And so there's no turning back now, and it's going to be very interesting to see what's next. I would not expect power at properties on the west side for probably, some people are saying 2 to 3 weeks conservatively. I would say a month. I'm expecting things to move slowly. It's going to take a decade at least to rebuild. And my fear is, as a local and somebody that loves Maui, and it's so close to my heart, and I'm also an investor, and I'm in real estate. We do all kinds of great things for the island on multiple levels, is, well, how is this thing going to be rebuilt? Because I see a corporatocracy now moving in. I see the Black Rocks on Wall Street, and I have a funny feeling they're going to be building giant towers in front of Lahaina and Front Street right now, which is going to take all the charm and all the history and all the beauty and all the quaintness of it away forever. And it's going to further the gentrification that I've been warning about for a very, very long time. So